but hey, now there's a system, how do I use it? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go quickly through this. So again, this came about by, from the federal level. The feds told us to do it, so something we had to do, definitely not something we chose to do. And it's a very thorough check. They had deep concerns about people falling through the cracks. And so it's a 5-point check, 6 if the person lived in another state. So we're checking the Louisiana-based, like we currently did, a fingerprint-based check of the Louisiana criminal history, fingerprint-based of the federal criminal history, the National Sex Offender Registry. This is done different than just checking the public website. It goes through a different path, and it should be more thorough. We check the Louisiana Sex Offender Registry. And then if the person, a request is sent to DCFS, which is something I'll talk about today. And then if the person lived in another state within the last 5 years as a resident, then we also are going to check that state. And I emphasize that because if you don't put in your dates properly in the system, it makes you, some people kept putting in more states beyond the 5 years, and so then they were charged more. So one, we fixed that on our end and made it more clear for y'all, but I want to make sure that you don't feel enticed or forced for any reason to go beyond those 5 years of disclosing where a person has lived. So again, this has become effective as of March 1. That's when the changes came into effect, and it applies to all licensed centers and home-based providers that receive CCAP funding. So this is very simple. What are the steps for starting the criminal background check? So step 1, you come to our system now, our child care civil background check system. The website link is, if you go to our Louisiana Believes CBC page, it's right there. There's a big block, and you click on that, and it'll send you to our civil background check page. Once you're there, you can, if an email hasn't been, if you should all have your usernames and passwords. If not, we can talk after. But you should be able to log into the system and set up your account, and then apply for your people. So once you apply for a new person, you're going to have, that's the first step, putting in all of their demographic information. After that, you pay a $15 fee for LDOE, and then it'll immediately start the checks for the National Sex Offender Registry, the Louisiana Sex Offender Registry. It'll send a request to DCFS right away too, and then our team starts verifying all the documentation. Meanwhile, there's still another step, right? We still need to get that fingerprint. So the fingerprint step currently will vary. It will not in the future. Eventually it'll be the same. But for people that live closer to Baton Rouge, and that's your place for getting fingerprinted, then you pay at the Louisiana State Police. If you're going to one of the other LDOE designated locations, then you pay online using the fingerprint icon. So that's one very important distinction that you guys need to know right now. There's a banner on our website. We've tried to do some outreach on that, but I just want to take this opportunity to make sure it's super clear that step will differ. Now, and then after that, you send your person to get fingerprinted, and then you'll get a notice from us when we're done that says there's been a status change, and it'll have the applicant's ID number, and then you go and look up that person in our system, and you'll see the determination. So some of the things you'll see for a determination is, one is indeterminable, and that's not good or bad. That basically means they never went to get fingerprinted. So we didn't make them ineligible because that has a negative connotation, but we didn't make them eligible because they never completed the background check. You'll start seeing that if they're hanging out for 90 days. So after 3 months they didn't come, they're not coming, right? So the next thing you'll see is eligible. Eligible, green light, good to go. They can go start working, right? No strings attached. Another thing you'll see is provisional. Provisional means that they can work. 137 describes the monitoring policy, the requirements there. The monitoring log that is required if the person's provisional is on the website. You don't need to have a monitoring policy until you have someone that's provisional. So you don't need to do it now. It's only if you bring someone on that's provisional. And the next one is ineligible. If the person's ineligible, they cannot be on the premise. We our team will communicate with licensing to let them know. You will know right away as well, and that person is ineligible, so they do have to leave. Or they shouldn't be there in the first place if they're a new hire. If they're an existing hire, they would have to leave. There is an appeal process. However, the person is prohibited from being on the premise while they are determined ineligible. One thing I wanted to make note of is the turnaround time. It varies. It varies for a lot of reasons. I know a lot more about IT and the fingerprint process than I ever knew I would. Apparently, some people could have similar fingerprints, in which case they'll sit there and hold on to it and analyze it closer. If someone has a similar name and they got fingerprinted within the same time frame, one maybe for criminal reasons and one for our purposes, for civil reasons, they'll hold it and make sure there's no weird like stake jumping or something going on. Maybe, I mean, there's about 5 different reasons that Louisiana State Police informed me of when I was asking, well, why did this person get fingerprinted? 2 people got fingerprinted from the same center. One of them has them back, the other one doesn't. And so, you know, as a provider, you're like, well, did they do something wrong? Are you looking further into their crimes? Probably not. There's probably just one of these anomalies. So I don't want you to have too much anxiety about the person you're hiring just because it might be taking longer. There were some technical issues beginning, so if you do have someone you're waiting on over 10 business days, let me know. As far as the turnaround time is one of the questions I saw. Right now, it's interesting. We have new hires coming in. We have directors. We have existing staff. We're prioritizing those new hires, right? So we want to get people to work right away, help you guys with child-staff ratios. Existing staff, we're not going to, licensing doesn't need those right away. You have your existing CDCs, so we're not prioritizing those. We're still working hard at getting you those back. But those new hires are really our top priority. For them, our turnaround time is still dependent on state police getting us the criminal history back and the FBI criminal history back. We've been able to do it within, a few days of receiving that, if not sometimes the same day. But it's of receiving the criminal history. State police doesn't really give us a background check we can hang our hat on, a turnaround time for background checks we can hang our hat on. They say 7 to 20 days, which isn't true, right? You often get them sooner. I know 2016, 2017, you often had some major delays. We're hoping that those delays are in the past now that we have a new system, and we can start giving you some good turnaround times. That being said, I didn't say a number because it's still very, very, very new. But if you're waiting on a new hire for more than 7 days, call or email us. If you need them desperately within 5 days, call or email us. If it's 3 days, you can call or email us, but at that point you might be stalling us more than helping us. So, we'd appreciate just waiting a few days. I know sometimes things happen. You've got maternity leaves, you've got, people leaving randomly, firing, quitting on the spot, things like that. So, do what you have to. But I would like you to maybe anticipate 5 business days, 7 business days before too much, One thing is my niece works in the child care industry, and she had her gallbladder ruptured on a Thursday night. And she's like, oh my God, Val, I gotta go to the emergency, my gallbladder. And I said, you better call your child care director right now. And she's like, that's what you care about? Absolutely. Just call her. This is a big deal. Because I know it's important to you guys. So, ask us if you have to. But otherwise, expect something closer to 5 to 7 business days to start. I'll come out with a concrete number once we have one. But during this transition period, it's just a little hard to give you something concrete right now. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so fingerprint locations, what do they expect? How many people are not going to Baton Rouge? Okay, so I'll cover both. Okay, so I have to talk about our LDOE locations, which will eventually be in Baton Rouge too, and then I have to talk about Louisiana State Police. So for the LDOE designated location, our vendor is referred to as Gemalto. You pay the fingerprints on site. You'll get a TCN number, a transaction control number. It's emailed to you, it's emailed to the applicant, and it's also viewable on your confirmation page when you pay. They take the TCN number to the LDOE site, and they take a photo identification. That's all they need, no other paperwork. The site pulls up that application, It verifies the information and then gets them fingerprinted. If you paid and they never got fingerprinted at an LDO, at a designated Gemalto site, let us know, and we'll eventually you will have the ability to cancel it yourself and get reimbursed. That's not something that they have right now, and they said they should have that in a few weeks. But if you canceled and no one's getting fingerprinted and you paid the $48 to the Gemalto site, let me know, and I can work on trying to get that back to you. State police, that is a different process because they weren't supposed to be a site. They were because of technical difficulties in the beginning, and were, awesome in supporting us during those very unexpected technical difficulties. So for them, you can't pay online. You have to pay on site. You need two forms of payment. One is for the $10 fee, or not two forms of payment, two separate payments. One for the $10 fee and one for the $38 fee. I guess it's some sort of, is from one legal authority and one is from the other, so they keep it separate, I suppose. And so, for instance, if you're sending one person, you send 2 business checks, not personal checks, to Louisiana State Police. It seems silly to me too. That's the hurdle that we have there that I want to communicate. You also must send them with the authorization forms that we provided with the handprints on the front. It's 2 pages. If you don't send them with those, they might not think it's for us. Other people have other reasons. They're working with children, and by default, they might give them a right to review. If they give them a right to review, it doesn't come back to us, and we can't accept it. We're not supposed to legally. That form right there, yes. You have to hold it up. So yeah, it's got the little artwork on top. And that form is available on Louisiana Believes for you. If you don't know what it is, if you're unsure, you can definitely email us and we can send it to you guys.
This one too, a no?
Both of them, yeah. So it's 2 pages. One's a rap sheet disclosure form and one is an authorization form.
And that has to go to the state police?
If you're using Louisiana State Police, Independence, then those forms need to go with them. Because Louisiana State Police processes background checks for a million reasons. And when I said, look, can you make sure that it's for child care so that they don't get a right to review on accident? Louisiana State Police said, look, some people come in for random private reasons. Like, it's very hard to communicate with the individual about what they're getting and what their needs are. And so, I supplied them with the form. I supplied them with all of this. We meet with them and talk with them more than once a week. But it's still a very hard thing to communicate. So I need you guys to help your applicants make sure they're getting the right background check. Oh, you know what? One thing I wanted to note about fingerprint locations. So the fingerprint locations, and maybe I'm just not IT savvy or don't know how to communicate this problem to people above me, but the Louisiana Believes website, when you click on the link with the form, if you don't click refresh, you might not get the newest form. This is for all forms. I'm pretty sure it's for all websites. So to get the newest information, click refresh. If you're, if you have a fingerprint, you're waiting for a fingerprint location that's closer to you, and you're not seeing one, or you're not seeing any new ones, and you haven't been for a week, then click refresh, and let's see if you start seeing something, a newer one. If it's still not working, you might need to clear your browser history. So that's your cache, that's your cookies, that's that. I know it's IT related, no one likes it, I don't either. But it's not automatically updating on everyone's browser, so they're not seeing the new locations. And so I've tried to help. Occasionally I'll send out email blasts when we have a couple new locations as well, but at the same time I don't want to overwhelm y'all with too many emails. But again, if you're not seeing the newest ones, then refresh your browser. For instance, right now we have one that's coming soon in the Lafayette region. So the newest fingerprint documents has a red marking that says coming soon, April 16th. April 16th comes around, you guys still see that? You're looking at an old one. So you got to refresh. And I'm going to put a little revision number on there too, so that you can kind of keep track of if you're looking at an old one or not. And that's for all the documents on our couple others I updated right away that I can tell providers don't have the most recent one yet. I went over how the fingerprints are paid. Again, Louisiana State Police on-site, 2 separate checks if you're paying by check, business checks, and Jamulto you pay online. Some people are getting corrections requested, and that is basically when something in your application was wrong to the point of it wouldn't be an accurate background check, or it's stopping us from running the background check. So it might be because the person's name was misspelled. There might be too big of a variance between the driver's license and what you guys put. The email might be invalid. Remember, your email is your user ID. So you can't have your provider email and then when you apply for your own background check, use your provider email again. It'll show up as invalid. One person, to make it easier, tried to use multiple emails for all their applicants, or the same email for multiple applicants, and that came up as invalid. It literally blocks me from making a determination. So I have some people that are eligible, and I cannot click the word eligible until it goes to a valid email address. And the reason is because that gives that person access to that eligible status, right? That applicant's going to have their own little login information too. So that's very important that the email addresses are accurate and only used once. Another reason we see corrections requested is because the driver's license just isn't legible. If we can't read the numbers and the person's name, we really can't use it. So just look at the quality, and if it's not good enough from your scanner, take a picture of it. We accept JPEGs. A lot of people just take a picture of it on their phone and then email it to themselves and upload it there. And so there's a couple different ways you can use it, but again, illegible driver's license or photo issued IDs, that's a reason for corrections requested.
Yeah.
The consent forms, some people just try to sign it using a font, like a cursive fancy font, instead of actually having the person sign it. Unfortunately, we're going to be looking to make sure it's an actual wet signature with a pen. And so try to go ahead and make sure that those are all accepted. These documents will be checked on our level, and then they're checked again when DCFS runs their search, which will start in July. And so you don't want the hassle. Like, let's just get it right the first time, because we definitely don't want to hold you guys up. And I know it's a hassle to upload in the first place. I tried to find another way, I promise. But for both reasons, they're going to need those documents. So if it's too much, we're trying to, instead of corrections requested, just email you directly and work it out whenever we can, because we don't want to do a corrections requested, because we can't click eligible. And that's what we want to do to help you guys get to work. Okay, another thing is checking eligibility versus adding a person to your roster. Check eligibility is like a one-time thing. If the person's coming in for a class observation or something like that, they're not there on a regular basis, you can click check eligibility, enter that person's name, date of birth, and social, or if they didn't use their social, then whatever state ID they did use, and then it comes up a little message that says eligible for child care purposes. If they're there on a regular basis, you're obviously not going to want to do that all the time, and licensing is going to want to see them on your roster. They're going to want to see something that, on file. So that's when you add them to your roster. And you do that by adding, acting like they're a new applicant. You click new application, and then you go through those steps, which I outlined on the form that my team passed around. So you'll see the steps here. It's on the user manual as well, because, obviously that's important to y'all, but it's so important that I cut it out here and just passing it around for y'all. If you're one person that goes into a lot of centers, you can get the consent form that's going to be requested. And if you go in like regularly for therapy or something, then have a couple of these forms already printed and signed so that, and maybe even on a flash drive, so that the providers can do it kind of easily when you go into their center. So one thing I wanted to point out is Louisiana believes the different resources we have on there. One thing is on the center of the page is that big button that'll lead you to the website, Louisiana Child Care Civil Background Check portal or system. The other thing is the two circles at the bottom. So one is in red, that's the initial consent form. It is down to 1 page. So if you see it as 3 pages or 2 pages, which was my March 1st morning, it should be down to 1 page now, which was my March 1st